how would you define the word speech?
So, tutorial 5, the first day of the mix down. I really like the mix down stage because I've pretty much got my arrangement exactly how I want it. And now my mind is focused on just cleaning up all the little details, all the things that I was spotting and listening to as I was creating it, all those little imperfections I can come back to now with quite a relaxed attitude to just fixing all those. And also just realizing a few production tips of my own that I always like to use, like the way I use ducking and the way I use the Mondo mod or things like that, to just really create more space and expansion in the track. So that's a really nice feeling, sort of on the home stretch. Okay, here we go. I've just listened back through the arrangement and I'm happy with that. I've found a way to end it by creating a little semitone drop and stretch. So now that the finishing line is in sight, it's time to get on and really sort out all the little minor sonic issues. So an example would be the bass, where I've just nudged it timing wise and created some fades. So that pumping sound you heard was the sidechain kick trigger. If it's a really busy kick pattern, then I'll mute some of them to simplify it. Otherwise you kind of get this hysteresis sort of effect. I'll just demonstrate how the bass sits in the track with that. I tend to put an instance of the ducking compressor on every track rather than send them all to a subgroup with one compressor, basically because I like to play around with the release and the threshold so that the individual tracks are treated differently by the ducking compressor. For instance, I don't want the bass to be ducked as much as the sample loop track. To ensure I create enough air and enough space as well, I put a ducking compressor after my effects returns so that the reverb or delays that I'm sending are ducked as well. It tends to create just an extra bit of space and definition. So that's sounding pretty good. There's no more little clicks and glitches. So the other thing I've done to the bass is bass mono with the utility, the bass rider set to gentle rider. It's a nice preset. And then the DBX, which is my go-to for basses. And I've also got the low pass on, which is going to leave any frequencies below about 200 Hertz alone. And then an L2 set to -2 dBFS. I know the L2 isn't actually doing anything, but it's just become part of my ritual to put one on every track at -2 dBFS because it just ensures you'll never have any overs at the end of your signal processing chain. So the final bits of mixing and producing are centered around the two sample tracks. The flugelhorn track, just wanted to highlight the flugelhorn sound so it sits in the mix. and I'm using a Mondo mod just to pan it across 48 degrees, slightly right of centre by 8 degrees. And I've done something similar on the other one, this time same 48 degree range, but left of centre by 8 degrees. I like the movement that creates. Okay, just a quick note on leveling. If I need to automate any levels, I don't use the channel strip faders because I like to mix to roughly 0 dBFS. And should it start bouncing over, then I can literally select all my channels and bring the faders down relative to each other as I've mixed them. If I've automated those, then obviously I'm going to have to change the master fader. So if I do need to change anything, then I'll change it on the gain of the compressor. And then the last thing I've done as well is a little bit of panning on the percussion, just so it adds a little bit extra detail. And all those little bits just add the fairy dust. So hopefully that gives you an insight into how I go about making tracks. The finalising part I definitely keep separate from the creative part, because I think those two sides of your brain, the creative side and the logical side, can be in a bit of conflict if they're trying to work on the same thing. For instance, polishing 8 bars and then trying to find a way to extend that. So, and also I've noticed that I've become quite compartmentalized in the way I do things. It's quite logical, and that way I tend to ensure that I don't miss any bits out either. And each process has its own goal, so it's quite satisfying to reach those goals rather than being more open-ended and not possibly finding yourself satisfied at the end of the session that you've just done. So the next thing I want to do is just go through my master bus basically, and how I create a mix ready for online release. See you in part 6.